Hi and welcome to this video where I will build an Amiga 4000 replica. And usually when I do this kind of videos I do in several parts, usually shot in one day. This will be one part shot in several days, and with my extremely professional video editing skills, etc. Audio and video and everything will be just crisp, perfect, or no. I don't know. I know that I'm no professional on this one, and I don't care because it's all about how to build this thing. Trying to do it okay, somewhat okay, but far away professional. No professional lighting or microphone or anything like that, because yeah, this is just a byproduct of everything. Anyway, most will be done using another camera, so let's switch over to that one. Here is my top camera, or top, yeah. Anyway, I started with all passives already installed. That means all resistors or capacitors except the electrolytic ones, all transistors and all diodes are in place. No extremely high complex, but anyway, both sides are done. I usually actually do like 6 or 7 cards at once because I do several, so I maybe one day take 1 kilo resistors and then next 10 days, yeah. Anyway, what I do when I do it is simple, that I put a solder blob on each pad. This is turned off, by the way, for the moment. And when I've done that blob, I use the locator, link in the description. Also linking in the description of where to find the build guide in text format. Anyway, when I put the blob on all locations, I then go to the locator, find next component to do, 1 kilo, etc. I heat up the blob, put in the component, remove the solder iron and remove the tweezer. And when I've done that on all components on one side, I twist the board and solder it in place with another blob. And when that's done, I usually also put some flux on and heat with hot air, so the components will align somewhat better and get smoother better. This, however, can have one small drawback, and that is that the board might get somewhat, not extremely warped, but somewhat warped. But it looks much better, and you know that it's proper soldered onto the board. Anyway, so let's try to do the next part, and that's actually to build the board. Okay, short back, but I simply couldn't find my thin leaded solder. And what I do to solder this one is to, first of all, I change tip to tip with a small hook, or what you can call it. Slightly bent like this, and this helps me getting under the ship. So I take one corner, push down the ship while taking in here, and then I rotate it. And actually I just check that it's somewhat aligned, but it isn't. Like that. And I move it by heating that bit I just soldered. Just checking that it's somewhat aligned, I actually zoom in some. And yeah, I'm satisfied. Then change it again, so I'm now on the exact opposite side of the chip I'm soldering. And then put the solder blob here. While pushing down the chip so it's firmly to the board. Like that, yeah. And then turn it again and check that it's aligned. No, really. Then I release the bit I just soldered and push it some. Yeah, good enough. And then I just tap it here. Push down the chip, release, and then remember that I have one part that I haven't soldered. And see where I can find it here on the camera. And now I solder this corner as well, pushing down the chip. Okay, good. And then I just take pin for pin, and you can drag solder this, but I found that sometimes you can get bridges, etc. But with this method, you know that it will be good. Okay, I have a microscope that helps a lot. This is not a solder tutorial, so, and if I did forget it, this is Gary, the fat Gary on solder. It takes for this work most the oscillator, 28 MHz oscillator, and cleans it up and gives the Lisa better 28 MHz. Okay, now I have that side done. Now I turn it 180 degrees. That side. Always go to the opposite side all the ways. Because then you know that you will have your IC in quite okay level and all pins touching the pads nicely. And I'm using a 0.3mm leaded solder wire here. And there are faster ways to do this, sure, there are, but this method for me, I know I so far haven't had any failures. And as this is have this little hook, I know that I get under the chip and proper contact with the pad. I can fill up there. So I take next corner, need to watch on the monitor that you actually see what I'm soldering. I know the light isn't the best again. And this is a salvaged chip from a donor board that I have actually had in isopropyl bath, and still you can see some residues here on the pins, but it's cleaned up. I try to reuse chipsets. This is tested on a fully socketed test board, so I know it at least starts up. I haven't done in-depth tests to be sure, but usually it's not the chip that's faulty on the Amigas anyway. Of course a chip can be faulty, but usually it isn't that the issue. Now this one. This one doesn't take that right there. Apparently didn't have enough flux on that pin. Okay. That is Gary soldered in place. And next is Lisa and Alice, and I will do this now without talking so I can speed it up. Okay, we have Gary, Lisa and Alice in place. Still we need more stuff. We need U975 to be in place, and so put that one in place as well. that. Some flux. I'm still using my crooked point here because I'm too lazy to change tip, even if my new soldering station is hot swap. Anyway, that's there, and technically that is all that is needed to get a vertical horizontal sync, but I will also put in the 166 in 976 as well. It might not be needed. Actually, you can pull pin 1 from U975 to ground, and you can skip 976, but then this port doesn't work. But yeah, we keep the original, so I put in this chip. The newer version of the 4000, the cost reduced one, this chip is removed due to that port was never used. But yeah, keep it original or whatever. Put it here, and also the reason 975 needs to be there is it provides the Lisa with the MDET signal. If it's not there, Lisa will pull reset low, and Alice will not produce any sync signals. But I want the MDET signal to be clean and proper. That's why I also install U131. That's a 74 F, I think, 06. And with that in place, then the disable function here works, and that means it will tell 975 to output MDET signal, or just, well, signal anyway, but with the waveform or not. So this is for the disable function that disables keyboard and mouse, I think, with the key on the 4000 that no one uses, but everyone uses. So of that reason I installed that one, no other reason. And that's it. And now I need to find where I put my T-sub. This is salvaged from the old board because the 23-pin T-sub, the male version, yeah, and female, but this is male version. It's hard to get by. So I install it for the monitor port, like that. I usually drag solder, put on some boost on my soldering station. I usually just do a quite sloppy work on the D-subs, and then when all is done, I'll fill up more and also solder the tension ports on the side here. This is more just to get some kind of correction. Everything is connected, but I fill it up later. Okay. Now technically I should have a sync signal, but if I plug my 23-pin adapter here, it will not get sync on the monitor, but the oscilloscope will show it because the flat fuse here is missing. Without that fuse, you will not get a sync on the monitor. So better add it. And I actually didn't add it here when the passive was done, just to show that if this fuse is blown, you will not get any picture on the monitor. So yeah, there we go. Okay, plug in my monitor here and power on. Hopefully my monitor goes VGA, and it does. I don't know how I can. Yeah, I can do like this maybe. Change monitor or camera like that, and do like this. You have here my lab monitor, and here my power on, and yeah, VGA. That means we have vertical and horizontal sync, and this is my cheap glasses I use to actually see stuff. Anyway, back to board view. So now we have vertical and horizontal sync on output on the monitor. Not all monitors show the VGA splash signal. You can maybe see that the picture gets somewhat brighter, still dark gray, or you have to measure with an oscilloscope. But that's first thing. So if you don't have any sync, do not continue, solve it and fix the sync. Usually that chip is not there, or a chipset is bad, or the 28 MHz signal oscillator doesn't give out any signal. So that's parts done. Okay, as I usually start with, time for the next part, and that is the clock handling. And it's this part of the machine, and for that one we put in the 50 MHz oscillator, like that. In place, and then the 74F74 that actually does more or less the clock dividing to half. If someone can explain me why they do this instead of 25 MHz clock, do please tell me why. All those small logics is brand new, by the way. And then the deal chip that changed to surface mount later as a 74FCT 244, I think. Yes, it's usually in a socket, so I put in a socket. And this is why I hate through hole, because you have to flip the board and you have to do things. I can't understand why people like this crap. And I drag solder it as well. That. I bend the pins and put it in the socket like that. And then I cut up 3 jumper pins here for the CPU speed, CPU clock selector jumpers, and also put in jumpers in the opposite side. Maybe I should show in the microscope how I do it. And this is just to get some kind of alignment. And like that. And let's have to find where it is. Like that. This is not the correct jumping. Just by that one I know that they are properly distanced. And remove that camera like that. Hold it and solder it in place. Remember, you're holding a part that will get hot, so remember where you're holding and where you're soldering, so you don't, yeah, you will notice when you're doing wrong. That usually comes with a comment like ouch, and then some words you shouldn't say in front of children if you're like that. Anyway, that's it. And the last thing is the delay line, and usually you can use the original part that I actually will use here, like that, and maybe with somewhat better light. I need to get better light in this workshop. Or you can do an adapter for the surface mount version and put it on here. I will soon release, hopefully on my webpage, the Gerbers for this one as well. It's pretty nice. It makes so you can use surface mount available delay line into the socket of through hole delay line. But this time I'm using original delay line from the original board. To be honest, I haven't tested this one. I should maybe do that, but yeah. That I will notice later. And I noticed also that the pins on those delay lines are pretty fragile. Like that. This creates the 90 degrees phased clock that are important on the Amiga. Like that. And now I set the jumpers correct, and I will use the 030 card that's internal, and on this clone, sadly, there are no seal screen text on the jumpers, so it means the two pins closest to the sorrow pins are internal, and the two closest to the CPU port is external. External used for like 3640, 3660, and I think Cyberstorm PPC, etc. But Cyberstorm Mark II uses internal, so it depends on the card. So read the manual. No boot is very often just wrong jumper settings. Anyway, that's a clock handling. Well, next part is, I guess, to get some code running on this board, and for that we need a CPU slot that I had put in place here but not soldered. And when I solder it, I put it in here. I put on some flux, decent amount of flux, and crank up my soldering iron to a quite hot temperature, 370 degrees Celsius actually, and then use a knife blade, quite thin one, and then just put it here and drag solder. And as I have flux, it will be floating down pretty nicely. Do not push too hard on the blade or you will damage the solder mask, and then make shorts. With unleaded solder this will be much harder. I just simply do not use unleaded solder because it's so hard to work with. I guess it's something you learn. But why? Yeah. Oh, I'm used to have my fume extractor for this one. So, half connected on. And this is a used connector. I try to reuse some parts, and this is one of the parts I usually reuse, unless I notice that the connector is in bad shape, then I take a new one. I don't want to use all my new ones directly, even if I actually have a stock of about 40 of them right now. Okay. That was a connector, 200 pins soldered. Again, I will, when I'm finished and everything is okay, then I will solder those extra points to have it in place, etc. And one thing more, as the PCB of some strange reason doesn't have all 6 screen text, the 1 pin are here. So if you put it on that one, you will notice that you can't push in the CPU card. Anyway, we have CPU card in place, and then we put in some ROM sockets, 40 pins. The correct orientation, just to make it look good. Doesn't matter if you are in a hurry, it will technically work, but it will look pretty bad if you're not doing it right. And here I had a bent pin, so check that you have all pins correctly and not bent and not off or anything like that, because then you have to desolder, and that will annoy you. Again, through hole sucks, hold on the sockets. I solder 1 pin and 1 pin on the opposite side. 1 pin, 1 pin on the opposite side. And then I do, by pushing up the socket, make sure that it's neatly aligned to the board, and then drag solder again. And I take the left side of both sockets first. and then the right side. That's always opposite side. That, and I populate them with diagram. First high word closest to the CPU socket, and then the low word closest to the servo socket. It's like that. You need diagram for this because Kickstart will not start with so little hardware put there. Okay, we have that one, and then we have to do one of the harder solders on this board, and this one is really helpful to have a microscope, and that's the budgie. No need for a microscope, but it helps pretty much. So I align it. Again, here I can see the whole ship in my view, but for the camera I need to show around here like this. So this is a remove chip. You can see some bridges, etc., but I don't care right now. So again, I take in a pin here, put down, oops, I moved it, take one pin, take it in place. It can be a blob, no danger. And then on the exact opposite side, as usual, taking that one as well, push down the ship and align. Make sure that by heating and moving that pins are quite okay on the pads. Somewhat, yeah, but if I push it will be correct, yeah. So, okay. Then flux, as usual, when you're doing surface mount stuff, flux is your friend. Okay, like that. I load this board and drag solder here. And as you can see, helps. And if you get bridges, just touch it up again. And then, again, as usual, you guessed it, the opposite side. Flux. Like that. It looks like bridges on the camera, but it's just bad light from the flux. This will get messy. I will clean up later. And flux. Like that. And then the top side. and like this. Now I have a blob there that will not go away. Then I simply have to use my soldering braid or whatever. Like that. So that was budgie in place. Remove microscope, like that. So budgie is in place and should be okay. Looks okay for me. Yeah. And okay, what we have left. I'm looking at sheet screen here. So then we need, oops, U901. Actually, it's not 100% needed, but I noticed that it helps a lot because sometimes it will not start without it, so better have it there. And we will need one CIA as well. And I'm using a socket for this one. And big warning with the sockets, they are quite handy, except for the fact that you can't add an division or something like that. But they are hard to solder. So they are the biggest reason for issues. Biggest reason, hands down, for issues. So it takes some time to learn how to solder them. Anyway, I will do that now. Under microscope again, even if the light is bad. But for that one I will hot swap some to this very, very, very sharp solder iron, and I swap. So, waiting for it to heat up. There. And what I do, I always keep the frame. It's better to do that because it's more stable. Okay, for those small sockets it doesn't matter, but for if you want to do the 84 pins, etc., it's better to do that. And the IC gets better connection in it, and it's more easy to extract, and it's more stable. And I do it the slow way, but it works. Still haven't had any failure with this method either. And for that one we go to microscope. I can't even fill this one. Okay, anyway, I first put on flux. Remember, I can see a complete 84 pin chip in this view, and okay, maybe I zoomed out. Yeah, I can still view as 84 pins in chip in my microscope, but using the camera I can't see barely this one. Anyway, put on the chip here, the socket here, align it somewhat, and take here, solder one pin, like that, and then flip the board somewhat, and as usual, you guessed it, the opposite side, while pushing down the chip, the socket, have it here, so it's aligned by 2 pins. And then on the side that I haven't soldered, I do like this. Oh, I got messy. Okay, I messed up. Okay, then I take solder break, cut a new one. I select that and it looks burned there, but it's just flux. Remember that. So when it's cleaned up later, it will be perfect. Like that. Heat the pin somewhat so you can see that it flows correctly. Clean the tip often. The important thing is never ever to touch with soldering iron on the pins that will touch the chip. Otherwise you can clean it, but I actually usually just to replace it. It looks burned, but it just flux. Remember that. Okay. And then we take the CIA, the 350, and I don't like this kind of socket I found here because it's a very bad pin for visual guidance for pin 1. First flux. Try to find where the small arrow is. You can see there. The small arrow, that's all. Put the socket in place. Like that. Given a flow so you can see that the pads are totally covered. That. And the last. And you notice after a while doing this that you have some favorite angles, and there are some angles that never works out for you. Oops, mess up. I usually clean up mess ups afterwards. Actually, the focus is actually somewhat out on my side here. I should better focus on the video. Or no. But there's like that, and maybe have some like that. Now we are there. So okay, that's the sockets, and let's do this. Okay, I have now the CA socket and U901 socket, so I populate them. First, actually, can do some swabbing of some cleaning with the Q-tip and isopropanol in the sockets. I will put this in an ultrasonic cleaner later with the chips removed. More about that later, but put it there and there. Okay, we have now CA and U901. Technically this should make the LED go bright, but this will more or less never do it, because of, first of all, because it will never work, because I haven't installed the 7407 here that handles the LED. So we do that first. Without this one, the LED will not work, and that's the reason why broken 4000s have no real LED function, because the signal to it is bad. And it's time also to swap tip. It's hot swap, so you don't touch them. You can touch them when you're inserting if you're quick enough, but not when you remove it. Anyway, more flux. Wakey wakey. Yep. Now technically it should be brightness, extra brightness for power, but it doesn't work like that, sadly, because the Amiga is a stubborn chip. Actually, not that easy. Actually, I forget another one. U354 also needs to be installed, so it can talk to the CA. Can with the bus to the CA, I think. So that. But anyway, this will not work because of and this is took me some time to figure out. This setup actually works on most original boards, so it should power on the LED better. But I noticed that that is not entirely true, and it took me some while. I needed to populate U703, U708, U707 and U145, because what I think is the floating signals made it just simply not work, so Gary couldn't assert the CA chip. I can see some, if I probe with the oscilloscope, I could see some activities on the data bus, etc., address bus, but that's it. So this eliminates the floating signals. A floating signal, what that is a signal that is toggling between zero, high, low all the time, because it's not terminated anywhere, so it's basically noise. So U703 is a 74F646 FCT646, and then we put 708, that is a 74F245. Like this, and 707 is also 245. I can't remember now, but I think those chips are actually for talking to the Zorro bus, but yeah. However, they are needed for this one to work, so I will put them here. And U145, that is an 74F521. That. So now I need to attach a CPU card and try it on, and I have to do a cut here because I can't find my CPU card. And some searching later, I found my card. So I'm putting power, and this is my 3630 replica. Just a 30 card. It's on Amiga.info. Anyway, actually I'm using a 16 MHz 030 here. It's slightly overclocked, but it's not for long use. So I will put it in here. It's my test board, so put it on, and I don't know if you can see it proper. I will turn the board here, and you can watch the power LED brightness. You can see that it goes somewhat brighter after 1 second. Yeah, and that's what we wanted. That's diagram telling the LED to go high, and same with kickstart, even if it doesn't work all the time, but that's why it's critical. Now we know it runs code. It runs actually code. So That's why the change of brightness is important, not that the power LED is lit. With an exception of the Amiga 1000 and the Amiga 500 Rev 3 and maybe 5, I can't remember if 5 does it. You will notice that if you turn on the Amiga, it will take some time and the power LED goes BAM, but there's no half bright mode. That's why they later added on all Amigas that the LED always go on but slightly dimmed, like this one did. And then when audio filter is actually turned on, then the power LED goes to full brightness. So we have brightness change, good. Then we can go on to the next part. The next part is to get serial output. And I need to do another cut because I need to find comment. Okay, I'm back. So power, we first put on the connector for serial and parallel port. This is also connector I took from the donor card. And usually I just do a fast solder here. I know that all pins are soldered but not properly flowed into. I'll do that later. If there are any issues, if I need to remove, then it's more easy for me to do it. If you just done it so like this. But all pins is soldered, solid soldered. Like that, one pin, like that. Okay, that connector is here, and then we need to populate U304, if I can remember correct. Yes, that's a 1488 or the 5188 is modern replacement number. It works the same. It handles serial out and also for some reason the cutoff filter for the audio. Really enough, I guess. It had functions that could be used and more simple to do so. Haven't bothered to check why actually. Anyway, that's it. And now we need to put on Paula, as Paula handles serial output, not the CA. But someone thinks it's Paula. But we need some more microscope view. And I'm not using sockets here either, because the only reason why I use sockets for the CA and the U911 and 902 is for the CA is unfortunately prone to die, so it's more easy to swap. If you are not careful enough, you should know you never hot swap any connector on the Amiga, because that fries chips. And that's the only reason. And U901 and 902 is because some people want to use a PO mode 2 hacks for faster ID, and that's why. So sometimes it's unstable, so it's good to have a way to go back. And later I will also do Buster in the socket. Like that. And my desk desk is messy, so it's hard. This is one of the hardest chips because the stand to my microscope is in the way. And now I took the wrong side, but we'll work anyway. So I need to do something. I have to always do. Okay, so you can see. Like this. Bridge. Ooh. So I have to clean that up. That. Sometimes I had a bridge and see machine doesn't start up. But then after some cleaning of the flux and inspection, you see, there's a thin here. Sorry for not having the pins in focus because, yeah, on the optics it's perfect in focus for me. Or here in field of view. Okay, that's it. Now I connect my, first of all, we have here, connect my null modem to my PC. Do like this, and I put it on like that, and let's see if something happens. Always. And yay, we can see serial output, no memory, etc. But yeah, serial output. And sometimes this doesn't work and we need to do a forced reset, and that's done by shorting 2 pins on the RTC, pin 2 and 3, that I can't see now without glasses. Then it starts up, and I would do on like this and this. Sometimes it doesn't happen, and we have the RTC chip here to put a pair of tweezers and short those 2 pins, and it will start up. So that's for this part. Well, next part is, I guess, to get somewhat chip memory to work. And for this we need U213 and U212. I forgot to tell about the GAL chips. They are programmed. I take new ones you can take from the old board. Take new ones, and it requires a good programmer. The TL866, for example, usually just fails. It says it's okay, but it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. But yeah, I have a Super Pro Celtec Super Pro 610p. Costly one, 500 euro something, but just plain works. But yeah, expensive, I know. But for me, it was worth investment to do. I do not know about the TL866-2, if it's better, but I had quite a few negative experiences with the TL programmer. Anyway, time to put on some more chips on the board, and will be on the microscope again. Flux. Put on the chip. Check the rotation, etc. And put it on here. And yeah. Solder it, and as this chip is so small, I don't go twisting around, etc. all the time. I just solder it here because you can see that it's kind of okay aligned. It's much harder when it's the bigger chips, etc. Like that. So, oh, I forgot that the moment when I turned the power on and the LED changed, if yours doesn't do that, try the forced reset before you're troubleshooting. Forgot to mention that one. It will be solved later when, and I will tell when. I guess it's some signals still going, mayhem, and yeah, some boards freak out. There you can see what I'm doing as well. Sorry, it's pain with this camera. That's bad. Field of view. Actually, I don't know if you can have a better camera with a better field of view. This is a M-scope copy-ish microscope, so if anyone knows if there are somewhat solution that allows me to a better camera field of view, then please tell me, because it would be really nice. Okay. Now the chips are in place. Put away the microscope. And then U216, that's 74 FCT841. Needs to be placed as well. That. Maybe I should get better light here. It's during the winter period in Sweden, here in Sweden, and okay, it's actually 9:30, so on the night, so it's not bright, and it's during the winter period anyway, so it's depressing dark in this country. And now time for a SIM socket. Move it like this so we have light there better, the yellowish light, so that one, and put the SIM socket for shipment. That one closest to the SORO slot. And as usual with through, you need to hold it in place, trickery, and put in one pin, and the opposite side, one pin, and adjust height by pushing up the socket, so it works, and then boost and solder this one in place. Like that. Socket is in place. And for shipment, I usually I'm actually using 8 megabyte SIMs. No, you will not get 8 megabyte SIM shipment. You will not. Period. There's no possibility. Even if some young player says that will not be possible, there's no Alice for that, so that works. Simply put, double-sided SIMs will give you 2 megabyte shipment, single-sided SIMs will give you 1 megabyte shipment. And 2 megabyte SIMs are expensive. I got this 8 megabyte SIMs and 100 pack for more or less nothing, so I use 8 megabyte SIMs. The extra 6 megabytes are lost. Simple put, they are lost. You can't get any use of it. And that's it, period. Okay, let's do that like this. See if I can get putty on here where I left it, and power on. And we have an error. Whoa, why we have an error? Let's be interesting. It shouldn't be there. We have a bit error. Okay. Like that. SIM was not in the socket correctly. And we have shipment. Okay, some errors here because, well, the board is not properly built, but it finds shipment, and that's a good one. So we have now a machine that boots diagram, detects shipment, but that's it for the moment. So time for next part. So next step is, I think it's a good time to put the headers for jumpers, etc. So here we have the header for audio in, CD audio in, etc. The tape there. And then we have some video DAC jumpers. I will go through later the correct jumper settings, etc. I dropped stuff on the floor. We have some there. I just put them on here, and I will solder them on, and then explain everyone and the default settings. Can be handy to have. That. You don't need to, technically you don't need to do them now, but there's never a good special time to do it, so better have them done. So it's done and all fine. Except one, which I will come to soon. We'll skip one. And that one I'm skipping is the 2-pin header here, close to Ramsey. The reason I'm doing that is that's actually for the Amiga 3400, the prototype of the Amiga 4000 that had the 030 card, which I actually have somewhere here, but I can't show you because I can't find it right now. Yeah, because it's in the Boxman. Anyway, so that one had an 020 and 030 on it, so you could switch between running the 3400 on a 020 CPU. So that's one, it's used for that one. And well, we don't need use it because it requires a special gal chip here and a special gal chip on the 020, 030 card as well. That sources are not available, so yeah, it's bad in a way. So anyway, time to solder. I've taped down all jumpers, and then I just solder them to place as they are taped there, so they stuck quite nicely. And like that. And sometimes you forget solder some pins, but you will see later how I find that out easily. I have that feeling right now, actually, to be honest. And there. But it's quite easy. Just wiggle on the pins. They are not loose. Then you can remove. And not loose. Remove. Not loose. Not loose. They are loose. Okay, all done. Let's set them to default settings. This is default for 25 megahertz, not 25 megahertz, PAL Amiga. First, audio here. It's not jumper, it's header in for right, ground, and left. Left, oh, yeah, well. Can't compare. Say difference between right and left now. Long day. Anyway, then we have here to the right of the deck, it's Sync green. What I checked, it seems that it actually doesn't have any jumper on default, and some have to the 2 in the bottom, 2 and 3. So, well, I put in 2 or 3 here. Anyway, we have below it, we have the top one is Lisa DuckSync, Lisa and the DuckSync. We have default them to 2 and 3, and the pointing part of the arrow is 1. So just put in 2 and 3. Put on red jumpers here because you can see them better in the video here. Okay, and then we have that one between Paula and Alice. That's a PAL and TSC switch. Set it to 2 and 3 because that's PAL, and you can switch it to NTSC. Technically it will not be really NTSC because then you need to change the 28 megahertz clock as well. It will start up as in NTSC, but some CA timers will be slightly off. But good enough for gaming, I think. G204, it says something with 8 megabyte. Skip it. 2 and 3, period. Don't ask. 2, 3, period. And then we have J213. That's a 2 or 8 megabyte chipman. This is the 36 MB jumper. And set it to 1 and 2. That's 2 megabyte chipman. You cannot get 8 megabyte. Period. Stop. It requires a new Alice that never was designed. So those jumpers could actually be skipped and hardwired on the board because you can't do, no, 2 megabyte, period. And then we have at the SIM sockets, that's the SIM size, and set it to 1 and 2 to be able to use 16 megabytes. Otherwise you can have max 4 megabytes. And up here we have a 2-pin jumper. We set just on 1 pin. Actually you can skip it, but I set it there so you have one if you need it. And that is if your DF1 drive is 880K or full HD. And then close to CAA here we have if the DFO is internal or external, we put it to 1, 2, so it's internal. That, and then we have finally we have here at Gary. It's a ROM speed jumper. It's 120 or 200 milliseconds, and default is 1 and 2, and that's 200 nanoseconds. If you have faster ROMs, you can put it on 2 and 3 to get somewhat faster access to the ROM. So that was all jumpers. Now they are neatly in place, like this. You don't need to have color jumpers, but looks better. So that's well, the short part of jumpers on the 4000. Let's just continue the fun. Now I want to have serial input to work, as now we have only output working. So then we put the 1489 or 5189 to U305. So it handles the input data. That, and you can hear my son playing games, etc. I told him to shut the fuck up, but teenagers, yeah, like that. And cut his internet. Haha. Okay, so technically now we have zero input as well. Now it's just time to fix some timing, clocks, etc. So that's needed. So we put U215. That's 74F08. That. And then we put another 74F08 at U710. Like that. And finally U205 is a 74HC4066. That, and always flux. Soon have to get more new flux. Should be enough for this build anyway. Like that. So we have some timing things, clocks, etc. needed for some internal stuff to work. And well, now I will get some more components and do next part. I need to correct one thing at U215. I told you that I used the 74F08. It is 74F04. Okay. Just to show, I will now do like this and show you putty. Diagram start. that. As we installed U305, we can now do inputs on serial port, and I will do an IRQ test, and we will see it will fail. And this is as intended, so we have to fix that one. So put that one off and look like this. And now I actually sent the O30 card, so I'm using the 36 port instead. This is a new test port, but it doesn't matter. So to get IRQs working, we need to populate U711, and I'll do that on Microsoft, but not on Microsoft View. That's a 74LS86 chip. It's needed for this one, and yeah, there's solder wire. So like this. Okay, and we need U701 also. I have one here already programmed and fine. Like that. And I don't have my, there was my thin wire. It's much easier to do with 0.3mm than 0.6mm wire. Even if I can do them both, but slightly more risk of a bridge. Here. Hopefully I don't smash that box to the floor and have to sort jumpers for eternity. For some reason, you never ever get large workspace, especially when you like me that are messy and take a lot of space for you. Okay, and when I program those files, I always do an erase, a program, verify, but I never encrypt them, because why should? That serial port in, 3640 in, and let's do putty in here like this, and power on, and something action. That's IRQ test, and we are working, and this will fail because we don't have an IRQ non-maskable input interrupt switch. So that's all okay. We can do CIA tests now, as we are working CIA interrupt 3, and it will work, except, well, we will have fails there, and that's because we actually lack that CAA. So nothing about that one. And also the new test. This one actually works without the IRQ, even if the text says so. And this is experimental, so it actually some buggy. I need to fix this one better. Anyway, you can see that one CAA is working, etc. And that's it. But I will not handle the CAA now. Actually, I will actually do a break now and come back another day again, because I will soon have an online beer tasting seminar, beer tasting with some friends, and that's something I look forward to. Next step, I guess, is to get some kind of picture on the screen. So time to add the components for this. And I haven't turned on my soldering iron. And for that one, we will need to populate U459 with a 74F04 F74. Always check with the locator instead of taking the names I say if I say it wrong, something that I already done once here. I could just put them on off camera or something like that, but yeah, well, I think half of the thing is to people to see how long it takes to do a build like this. Except hours of pain when you're doing the passives. A place machine would be really useful, but you never got enough space for things like that. And then we populate U458, 457, 456 and 455 with 74 FCT 245s. I haven't checked how it works with F245s, but schematic says FCT, so put on FCT. They are slightly faster than the F1, so there must be a reason, I guess. Can be honest, I actually sometimes replace the LS ones with the F ones, because I tend to keep stock of just one type if it's needed, because it's too much components to hold on. But yeah, that works. You can always almost always put a faster chip. On. Okay, they are pinned to places and flags as usual. Proper amount of flags. I think I might need a camera for a better view from upside. But well, I don't know. Maybe I should, because this maybe not be the most fun video to watch. But I'm by no ways have any plans of doing any super serious stuff on YouTube. Ah, fuck. I moved the resistor. That's bad. Let's put it back like that. So, okay. Okay, they are in place, and then we have the diode on D507. It's an LM385-1.2. Make sure that the video deck gets a 1.2 reference voltage. So yeah, some boring soldering parts, you can skip over them, or just have a cookie or something. Watching this. Okay, and finally we need the video deck, and for that one I need to change my tip to my crooked one. And I'm doing this under microscope so I can see something. And this is somewhat tricky now because I decided to put on the jumpers, but we work anyway. We do like this position, and I correct the camera because I see that we are somewhat out of focus. This camera doesn't have any focus on, so I have to adjust it manually. Can be annoying. You can adjust the microscope in height, but then it's different to what I have my optics. And I still need a way to get OBS to make this capture lighter. The camera has a function for it, doesn't do shit. Highly annoying. But I guess that's what you get when you buy some stuff from China. Even if I must say I'm very happy with this microscope. Here you see, yes, somewhat tight here. I can do it. No, there's no breach there. Go attack that one from another angle later. I can say that without the microscope, it will be hard to do this one without burning the jumper. reading this from the back side is harder, but just one pin, so I can guess it's right and hope I didn't short it. Let's see where we are. Where am I? Yep, that's okay. And this is why I like the crooked or slightly bent tip, because I can get under the pins even if I'm holding my soldering iron in a quite high angle. This is so I don't touch the other jumpers I have on the board. Yeah, it does collect some solder on the top, on the bottom of the crook, so sometimes I need to whack it off. You know, physics sucks up there. Like this. And soon we have the video deck in place. And unfortunately my drivers for my S-Video capture card is somewhat screwed, so I can't do a capture with my ordinary S-Video adapter, so I will use my face camera instead. Let's switch to it. Okay, let's switch over to the camera like this, and we see like that. I have my monitor set up here and turn on, and we can see some kind of flickering. And yay, we have output, so it works fine. Next part. Okay, I made a slight error before. I actually now have installed the extra CIA, that one here. I made a video of it, but recorded the wrong camera, so I don't have it on footage. But anyway, it was just me installing that PLCC chip in a socket. So we have both CIAs on here. Now it's time for me to do Fastman. For this one we need U891, 92, 93 and 94. That are the buffers, 74F245s. And this 891 is one of the bad guys when you have battery leakage. Sometimes the machine will not start. If you remove that one and maybe U177 or the RTC chip, the machine will boot up again after damage. And a booting machine is better than no booting machine. So for me to change chip here, like that, and I can remove the LED border for a while. Actually not really needed now because we know it works, but I want to have it there. I put on the ICs while heard the soldering got hot there, and then usual, take one side each part. Like this. And the usual amount of flux. some bridges here, taking them later, because you never know if I need to steal some solder from it. So you don't always need to do wicking if you have a bridge. Just solder some more pins, and then you may notice that there's not enough solder on the tip, and then you can steal like that, and bridges are gone there. Surface mount soldering requires far less solder than through hole. There we have a bridge, and it's trickier because we have those jumpers here, or headers, and I made a big mess here, so then I'll do some wicking like that. All fine. Time for SIM sockets, as I have the correct tip for it. And for SIM sockets you can either put 4 as usual, but I'm using every second SIM socket instead, and I'm using 8 megabyte SIMs because I got loads of them. This is an undocumented feature of the 4000 board. It's not just this replica, it's even on the original you can do like this. So you will still get max 16 megabytes without any hack, but more convenient maybe with 8 megabyte SIMs instead of lots of 4 megabyte SIMs. And you need to remove those from the original board, because otherwise the 8 megabyte SIMs will not fit because they are double-sided. And like that. And again, through hole sucks, and you must hold components, etc. That. I turn on boost on my soldering iron so I got some hotter. Then this drag soldering technique will work even better. So I'm simply just drag solder with my knife blade tip here, doing all pins. Not too fast because you want it to flow into the hole, so you get the proper soldering. I really want to have my fume extractor on now, but I have the microphone picked up to a quite sensitive volume, so I can, because I don't have any microphone boom or anything like that, so I know that the sound isn't the top quality, but anyway, it's better than nothing. But if I have my fume extractor on, I can turn it on here. Yes. And it's quite, actually right now, quite low set, but yeah, I will turn this off after putting these sockets on like that. So you can't even see what I'm doing. So anyway, so yeah. Anyway, we have now 2 SIM sockets installed, and then we need to put on Gordon Ramsay, as that is the memory controller. For that I need to change clip again. Don't they do hot swap tips that you can swap by hand? Instead of where was my tip? Ah, there. And for people asking, my soldering station now is a KSGER T12 soldering station. It's quite cheap actually, and it works actually better than I imagined would. And you can use, what I understand, Hacko tips for that one as well. Okay, that. I decided not to do this on microscope cam because a drawback with black PCB is that yeah, it's a black PCB and the camera it got the lighting setting, so they say doesn't do shit. Okay, every corner like that, and then last corner. We all have our ways of soldering ICs. In other videos I have done drag soldering on this one. It works fairly okay, but I have expected some small internal bridges, etc., that I'm not been happy with. So this method works best for me, even if this one is somewhat slower. But then also I do not touch the solder with much of the pins. So if you have a solution that you put a socket on top of it, like in division, etc., then yeah, you do not get solder on the pins there, so those sockets tend to stick better. I could speed it up, but I want to see also the time it actually takes to do a job like this. Except that you haven't seen the painstaking time of doing all the damn passives, as I told. Maybe I told this one before actually on this video. Got a reminder of that one now. Anyway, So just one side left, and we should have working fast now. Like that. And my chair for sure needs some more oil again. Squeaking IKEA stuff. I live in Sweden, close to an IKEA, so yes, that's why I have all my all this place where I live actually are more or less IKEA. And just get messy now. Get on the tip instead of the pins, like that. You don't see what I see, so yeah. Anyway, I have 3 pins left, 2 pins, 1 pin, and done. Like that. So, power on. We do some serial. Put on some putty, I guess. Like that. Card and put on some shipment. Everything is 8 megabyte sims now, and like that, and see power on. And I can see that, yeah, it found 60 megabytes of RAM. And if I'm quick enough, like that, yeah, 60 megabytes of RAM. So we have now fastband as well. Next step is to get the IDE working, so let's just dig into it. It's quite quick. You need to populate U904 and 903 with the 74 HCT245. Actually, I'm using F245 because I don't want to have lots of stocks, and it works fine. Somewhat more expensive, but yeah, it works. And now I notice that I have the wrong tip. I prefer to have the knife blade one. That's how prepared I am doing those videos. But you notice by now that I don't have any real script. Error. Why does it say error? My soldering iron says error. Like that. Have you tried turning it off and on again? And those are the buffers, so you can have long ID cables that the 1200 doesn't have. and we need an ID connector, and this is quite annoying. There's no markings on the ID, but one is close to the power connector, and I use those shrouded ones. I think they are much better than just pin headers, but it's just a matter of taste and nothing else. You can also remove that extra pin in the middle here that some PCs usually use for, so you can put the cable wrong. If you do that, then you can use the 80 pin cables as well. If you don't have it doesn't matter, it's not in use anyway, that pin. Anyway, we need also the U902 that I put in on the socket, because some people want to use the hacks to get somewhat faster, but sometimes it doesn't work that good, especially with CF cards. So better have it as an option instead. Let's see if I can switch over to the microscope for this one. And I just need to focus like that. See if I can have it all. Okay. Manual focus on this camera. Like that. Sorry, I missed you. Ah, I made a blob. I made a blob. That. So, we have now. I had the gal tip here, but yeah. There, they are on the board. So that's all needed to get IDE working. So next step, I guess, is to get floppy working. I think that's the next part of everything. Yes, it is. So let me find some components for this one. Okay, time for the part that I'm using least of an Amiga, the floppy part. but it needs to be done anyway, so let's do it. U353 should be an 74LS 125A. I need to find it here. Yes, that one there. And also 74LS 125A at U355. Yes. And then we have 74 LS38. That's what we find here, and that one goes to U352 and U351 should be in 74 LS74. And then finally we have U907, that is a 74F LS 174. So those needs to be placed on the board. So I will do. Like this. Usual flux. Can never have too much flux. We need to do some cleaning afterwards, but yeah. That I will do anyway, so yeah. Anyway, this is not a solder tutorial, it's more how to build, so I actually hope that you know how to solder SMD stuff. And don't be afraid, but do not practice on an Amiga. Okay, then we have those on. Then we need to do some connectors. First, I'll take the external connector here. Connector that I have taken from the donor board. I'll put them on just some sloppy here. I would always do connectors later with as usual. This goes for the external connectors. The internal ones I do proper directly. And same here. On the internal one pin is close to the power connector. Quite annoyed actually that there's no marking on the board for that one. But that will be solved later soon. Like that. And like that we have now floppy as well. We're not test because I don't have actually even have a test floppy. So anyway, that part is done. So time for next part of this adventure of building the Amiga. So time for some parts that needs to be done, and I start with a volt regulator that converts minus 12 volt to minus 5 volt. The 7905 at U198, and it's not much cards that use minus 5 volt, but it can be useful to have. And yeah, older versions of the Amiga required the power supply to do this, but this one converts to minus 12 volt. So, okay, then keyboard could be nice, I guess. And so, put on the keyboard connector. As usual with all my external connectors, I just put them on here, so, and do a proper job later when I'm using another solder actually. Put on the game ports, or game mouse ports. They need to be there as well. Like that. And finally the audio ports, and the white one is closest to the edge. Do the audio later. Okay, so we are getting somewhere. Soon a quite finished machine here, I must say. So I guess I will find the components for the next part of this adventure. So some music is always good to have, so audio. And for that one we need the op-amp U402. That's a 74. No, it's not a 74. It's an LF347. I always forget the number. And then an LM833 op-amp here as well. Must have the right direction of that one, or it will get really hot. Yes, I've done that mistake a couple of times. To be able to test audio, you need to add in C443 and C433 as well, those capacitors here. I will not do that because I will take this one into ultrasonic bath, and I don't want to have the aluminium components on when I'm doing that. And no, I will not use ceramic caps, period. Especially this part, it's wrong. So No, stupid. Do not. It's not made for ceramic capacitors. Period. Okay, end of that discussion. Anyway, time for RTC. The least interesting, except floppy maybe on the Amiga, because I think why use RTC when you can sync the time from the internet instead. But anyway, we put it on here. For that one we need U177, that's the latch in the RTC chip to the bus. Like that, put it on here. And then oh, bridge. We need the RTC chip, and I put it in a socket, and here I actually notice a little interesting thing. I have forgotten to put on the resistor packs here as passives, something that I will do later. I prefer them being on, because without this one here, etc., you sometimes just get 4 megabytes of RAM and sometimes randomly 416, etc. That's because it's wrong here. So yeah, they should be on. I will do that off or on camera, we'll see. Yep. Anyway, put in the socket for the RTC chip. Originally it's not in a socket, but yeah, sometimes this chip actually fails, so it's quite nice to have it in a socket. And also we need the trim cap for timing, and I will do a separate video of that sometime when the Agrom actually doesn't have that annoying bug. If you set it to 22 picofarad, it usually is quite okay. You can actually put a 22 picofarad cap here and it will be quite okay anyway. But for sake of originality, we put in this on here. And I will just quick run away to my box here and get an oscillator. Wrong crystal, not an oscillator. I will do this, see if I can do it better on if I can find it here. Yeah, I use this one, very small one now. You can steal from the original board if you want to. Just need to handle that one. So the trim cap, actually I trimmed to approx 22 picofarad using my multimeter instead. But yeah, it sets how fast the clock works. And fiddle with it. Anyway, this is it. I have now put on the RTC chip as well. And we'll find the resistor packs that I've been sloppy with and put them on and do the next part of this. So, time to get some Sorrow boards cards working, or yeah, the logic for it anyway. So time to get Buster etc. working, and for that one we need U706 and 702. That's our 74 FCT 646. button on here like this. And those we also put 7, those below buster areas also for sorry to work, but we had to put them on before because otherwise the floating signals etc. would screw up the machine and not let it boot up at this period. So yeah, they are also used for the bus, but had to put on earlier because of design. It could start sometimes without it, but yeah, not always. And now I am actually, because I'm lazy, using my crooked tip to solder the ICs, and it's not better, actually way worse. A reason why different tips are used for different occasions, even if the knife tip is usually the most versatile one, except for, I think, soldering PLCC chips. And apparently those are not good for T-SOPs. Like this. Anyway, with weak and stubbornness, I can do this as well. Okay, then we need a U704, that's 74F245. Quite common chip on the 4000. I must say. Like this. And then we will need the last programmable GAL chip, the U714. Put here and take notice of that orientation. It's not upwards at all other GAL chips, it's actually to the Zorro bus. And if you forget that one and just put it on, your machine will start up as yellow screen because you have installed the 714 wrong. I don't think it will burn the chip, but yeah, quite important thing that the orientation is off. And I'm using all new GAL chips here. You can, as I told baby, but you can reuse them if you want to. And this is Intel ATF chips. They run somewhat cooler, and yeah, they are available new. So I want to have every chip I move somewhat tested. It feels better to have a new chips for this one instead for moving and cleaning small PLCCs from solder, etc. That takes time. They are quite cheap, so. And with all logic possible as new as possible, the machine will hopefully last longer. Okay, like that. Now we have buster left, and I want to have that one in a socket. As you never know, and actually I don't know what bus drive I will have on this board physically yet. Anyway, put it on socket because you never know. And Dave Haney is apparently working on a new one. Exciting. And it will be a drop-in replacement for this board. So yeah, socket even better than. I don't know much about it, but he can now finally do stuff that he wasn't able to do. So we'll use some FPGA stuff. And no, it's not emulating, it's not implementing, it's, yeah. Well, in his case it might be implementing as he actually got some data, at least in his head. Anyway, let's see if I can, should I do this on and I don't know. I do some points here on this camera. That, flip the board, put on the corner here. Notice here that I'm not taking the outer pin because I have some plastic there, so I found it easier to, on this socket, do it on the next pin and then have it in place and then attack it from the other part here. So I really need to fix that one. But yeah, it's quite pointless, so I don't know what is pointless, or but I do this like that instead, so you can't see anyway what I'm doing. Maybe it was easier if I had another color of the PCB on that I'm soldering, but the thing is that I just have orders of black PCBs right now. Actually, I'm getting low on black PCBs, so I have an issue there. And that's the reason why I'm doing a black PCB right now. I could wait for the video until I had an order of blue or even white, but I wanted to have this done now. So yeah, I made a bridge, so I need to wick it some, and I guess it's a ground pin, that's why it got the bridge. And with this narrow, thin tip, the direct heating of the soldering doesn't help. Otherwise, direct solder heating solder irons are fantastic to use. You should Google that one if you don't know what it means. So actually the heating element is in the tip and not in the handle. But with a 0.15, I think iron that this is doesn't matter. It will be crap anyway. Oh, fuck. I actually did a small burn mark on the socket. Boo. You need to hold the iron in the correct angle or you will make a burn mark on the sockets. Anyway, just one small dent. Oh, more solder on the tip. Okay, that's it. Put your buster, put it on like this. Buster 9, good enough. And this is actually it. Technically it boots Workbench now. I will actually find some kickstart drums and also the connector, solder that one, and let's boot it on video here and see what happens. Workbench kickstart 3.0 ROMs on this one and connected to my SD card, and well, let's do power on. Flash it. That's good. Hard drive seems to work in a way. And yay, we have a picture. So what I will do now, and actually off camera, is to solder on the solder slot. Nothing to watch on that. And then I will do ultrasonic clean and let it dry for some 1 to 2 days, and then put on the electrolytes, and then we're done. This is machine done, and well, final talk about that later. So anyway, boots Workbench fine, perfect. And I have actually replaced Alice because I had random graphics glitches, and when I put my soldering iron onto Alice, the glitches disappeared. So apparently my old Alice chip was bad, sadly. Anyway, it's not much left to do except those famous caps. They need to be on, for audio to work and for proper stability, etc, etc. And as usual, when it comes to caps, there are some people that are putting on ceramic caps and or tantalum caps. No, simply just no, they behave different. So no, just don't do it. Simple. They behave different, and it's not designed for it. Some places it will work, some places not, like audio, etc. A booting machine is not the proof of working caps, period. You can put in resistors or diodes or something, it will work anyway, so that's not the proof anything works. So keep it as designed, please. Okay, enough rambling about that as usual. So just put on the caps. And I usually do like this. I put on, in order, some 47 microfarad caps first. As this is a build instruction, we don't go into locations, etc, etc. You have the locator to do that, and so on. I use Panasonic hybrid caps. They are rated for 10,000 hours at 105 degrees, and as we never come to those temperatures, I think per 10 degrees you double the lifetime. So, and the original one was maybe like 1,000 hours at 85 degrees or something like that, so pretty poor quality. I put on some flux, and as usual, just 1 point and 1 point. And then we come to the audio caps here, and they are reversed. So put them in the reverse. Some people argue that this is not true. Show me proof. If you measure ground, connected to ground, all fine, and the plus side should be plus, right? But that's connected to minus voltage, and so it will swing from 0 to minus. That means they're connected wrong here. So the minus part should be where the plus part is. And again, if you think this is wrong, put a link to something describing me wrong, then I will edit it and point out that I'm wrong. Until that, I do it like this. And yeah, and this is the same as recapping, you know, that a thing that needs to be done. And when you remove them, if you cut or twist them, you are stupid as well. Never do that. Always use proper tools, preferably hot tweezers or hot air at decent temperatures. Always, as usual, use the proper stuff, and it will work just fine. Flux. It's an over 3-hour video already how to do this repair, this build, and it's also like a pointer to people that you know how much time it actually takes to do this. Remember that I haven't filmed when putting on the passives, so you need to add like 1 or 2 hours there as well. Okay, there, and then we have an 10 microfarad here at the video DAC. Put on. Keyboard 22 and then the minus 12 volt 100 microfarad. Oh, I had my oscilloscope on, humming. If anyone knows a good camera that, or for a decent price, that can allow manual zooming for jobs like this to be more watchable, please give me a hint to one that are preferably not that expensive, because this is just a fun thing I'm doing. I'm not really into the YouTubing. There's some informal videos about how to do stuff. Okay, for some reason I always do them in packs of 3, the 47 ones. Dash of flux, follow on one. Put them there, slide it in, the next one, yeah. It's horrible after a while that you actually know the locations by heart. Done this sometimes now. Like that, 4.7 as well. Here for the RTC. And use tweezers to reach, as my fingers are too fat for this. That side done, then I close the board, and we have 222 micro here, and technically I think those two could be skipped, as if I remember correct, it's for audio in and out from the serial port. And who actually ever used that function? Also something I would like to hear about. Whoever used the function of audio in and out from the serial port? For what reason? Mono sound and yeah, weird. And then 47, the rest ones, 4 of them, 3 here at the power port. And then like that. Okay. And then we do like this. The last one. The last surface mounted one, that is. And then, okay, we have this done. We have two 470 microfarad as well. And then we are actually done. And then, feel like that movie. Scary movie. I can't remember. And then push up the cap while doing it so it's aligned neatly like this. Find a cutter. And I will change tip to my flat one. Like this, wait for it to heat up. And then if you remember that I did these sub connectors somewhat sloppy. Now I'm putting extra flux here on the D-subs because I'm using old solder here, actually 30 plus years old. Flux is dried up on it, I guess. Smells like hell, but it's really good solder, and I got lots of them. So simply put, I use it for connectors, etc. that uses a lot of solder. So technically I am cheap. So my expensive leaded solder is not used. And now I also put on solder blobs here on the stress relief, or yeah, the ground points, so it sits good when you plug in and remove connectors, etc. This smells like, I don't know, burnt roses or something. Yeah. I guess it's the old flux in this old solder. This. When I didn't have this solder, I used actually my unleaded solder for this because I just don't want to waste leaded solder for this kind of job. like that. I think we have now here a soldered board, complete soldered, under a 4000 board. Time for me to do some setup here, and we do the small final test, or whatever we can call it. So time for the final tests, or whatever you can call this. My S-video capture card is somewhat wonky, so I will show it. You can see the reddish background here when it boots, and do like this so we can see, but it will be wrong color on the S-video, so that's why it's going wonky. But anyway, you can see it here. You can see here, and I think the blue signal is missing for some reason, but on the RGB board it works fine. Anyway, we have memory working, and so this is not an Amiga issue. Ah, this mouse, I need to clean it. You know, the old-fashioned ball. And see if we can have some audio. And as you can hear, if you can hear me, so in short, we have now soldered the complete Amiga 4000 clone. You have seen it from beginning, except the passive part, because that are a really boring part. And this have been in like 3 hour plus long video. I hope you have some use for it, even if the lighting is not the best. I'm using actually 2 Logitech Full HD webcams and no other professional cams or anything like that, so I have no zoom, and yeah. But in short, this is it. So you know, it's a like 5 hour build to do one build, so you know. And the reason I do it this way is because then you will find an issue in minimal and try to solve it from that one, instead of building a machine and it's dead and you don't know where it died. It can be short on CIA, it can be short on Lisa, whatever, and it will be dead. So by doing this in stages, you have much more possibility to find the issue. And again, sockets, only use them if you really are comfortable with soldering them. They are the by far biggest reason for issues. So if not, skip them, and always never practice on an Amiga. Always practice on something else, like a D-Link router or something. Hope you have some kind of use for this video, and let's see if I can do something like this some other time, maybe with better camera, lighting, etc. But as though that is not really my priority. What do you think about it? And if so, if you have a hint of a camera that works, that are quite small, that have zoom, etc., but for a decent price. I don't want to pay for several €100 for a camera. Anyway, that's it. This is a completely working Amiga 4000 replica. Hope you enjoyed it.